Hi, my name's Laura Barman. I'm a homeschool mom to now 6 kids. We just had our 6th child in April. He is now 8 weeks old. And we had a great homeschool year. I was pregnant the whole time and had him at the end of the year. My kids just finished 5th grade. I have a daughter who finished 5th grade, a daughter finished 6th grade, a daughter who finished 4th grade, a son who finished 2nd grade, a daughter who finished preschool this past year, and then a 2-year-old and an infant that was born in April. So I'm just going to do a video for each one of them. This is a video about my 6th grade daughter and what we did. So this was her first year of middle school. I'm just going to run down real quick what we did with her. First thing was grammar. For grammar, we did the Classical Conversations Essentials program. And that program covers a lot of aspects. It covers like sentence diagramming. It teaches them like all the fundamentals of grammar. There's charts to copy. It can be, I'd say it's a really challenging program. So if you're a part of a Classical Conversations communities offered essentials classes in the afternoon. So what that looked like for us is we would do diagramming. There's 5 sentences each week to work on. There's 24 total weeks of work. So about every day technically we would do 1 sentence a day, but the way it worked for us is we would normally work on it like 2 to 3 days a week. And so we would do about 2 sentences every time we sat down, and we would like go over the concepts, do 2 sentences. She would label them and diagram them, and I would kind of help her correct them, and we would go over them. A lot of times there wasn't any corrections, but sometimes there was. She's been doing essentials. This is not her first year doing essentials. Anyways, that's kind of the way the essentials program works. They do it year after year after year. That's how the essentials program works. They do the same binder and even the same sentences over and over. They do it for 3 years in a row. So this was her last year doing it, so it was easier for her to do the labeling and the diagramming, and she had already been over those concepts before, so even though we were going over, it wasn't the first time that she had learned those concepts. That essentials program also has spelling that we have used in the past. We did not use it this year, and it has some corrections. So you actually correct like a book of the Bible, like the book of Esther, the book of Job, and you can even buy this curriculum like on the Classical Conversations website. But their corrections, they do like 1 passage a week where they basically do grammatical corrections, like adding periods, quotation marks, correcting misspelling. So they had 1 passage a week to work on for that. And there's a whole lot more you can do with that. You can kind of do as much or as little with the Essentials program as you want to. This is the spelling that we chose to do. It's called Spelling Workout. We just did this because it was easier for me to manage than the essentials spelling, because it was just kind of like a list. So I would have had to kind of figure out how I wanted them to practice that list and test on the list. This program is like really open and go for the kid, and it's basically like a work page, and they would do like 1 or 2 sections a day. And then all I needed to do at the end of the week was just test them on the list. So I really highly recommend this. And I felt like the words were like a good amount of difficulty for them. So for writing, we have done IEW with Lucy for 3 years now. The first year she did streaming videos. I think it was 1A. Structure and Style, year 1, level A. Then she did year 2, level A. Those are both streaming videos with Andrew Pudawa. And we love those. I feel like she really learned like how to do the IEW style of writing with that. I was kind of involved, but not too much. And so this year we felt like she was able to move on to these U.S. history-based writing lessons, and this does not have a streaming video. So I felt like 2 years of streaming video, and this is she didn't do essentials with CC, the afternoon program. So we did like the CC morning, and then we did not do it didn't work out with childcare, but she is now ready in her 3rd year to do U.S. history-based writing lessons because she had like already learned that method. I feel like this would maybe be hard to jump into if you had not done the streaming videos. I feel like there needs to be like a year or 2 of videos or like heavy parental involvement teaching or going to an essentials afternoon class before you jump into one of these on your own. But since she had done those two, you know, I felt like she was ready for this. So she did not do every single paper. She probably did maybe 15 papers. I think there's 24 in here. So, but what was really cool is that this lined up with our American history that we did with Sonlight. So we basically did like the first half. We're going to do 2 years of American history. We did the first half of American history this year, which lined up really well with these writing lessons. So that was really cool to see a lot of the things we were learning line up with some of her topics that she was supposed to write about. Other than that, we did Saxon for math. Oh, and before I move on, for IW, what I would have my kids do is they would just basically do it independently most of the week, come to me if they had any questions. And then when they had their first draft ready, I would edit that first draft, and they would type it before I edited the first draft. So I'm editing their, like, it's in Google Drive. And so I would edit that, give it back to them. Then they do the final draft and I grade the final draft. They like to do, they either type it or they do talk to type. It's in Google Drive. It's like this option where they can actually speak the words into Google Drive, or like the Google Docs program, and it types it for them, and then they can go back and like make little edits. That just saved a lot of time for them. We are not the best at typing. That's probably something that we need to work on next year. But I use a lot of clipboards. So like whatever paper she's working on, it's in a paper clip packet normally with, on the clipboard. And then once it's ready to go, then I put it on like my clipboard, which has like their turned in stuff that's ready for me to grade. So that's kind of how we organize that. For math, we had done Math Mammoth for grades 1 through 4, and then Lucy in 5th grade switched to Saxon, and she did 6-5 last year, and then this year she did 7-6 as a 6th grader. And I would say this is this was a challenging year math-wise, and I've talked to some other friends who have said that it was also challenging for their kids. Lucy is a summer birthday, and I think like having those summer birthdays, like those younger kids for that age, you're going to especially see it in math. And I would say that is definitely true. That's what I've learned as like a homeschool parent, I guess. So we had to have like a lot of just different, we have had quite the journey with Saxon math. I'm going to briefly share. So last year we did Nicole the Math Lady with 6-5. She's maybe not the most math brained child. So she was not like acing it. So then I'm getting reports. Nicole the Math Lady emails you, and then I get the reports of like what she got wrong. And there's a lot of different settings on Nicole the Math Lady on how you can, because I did the grading feature. But what we chose to do was to kind of go back all over those problems together. And so like she got these 5 problems wrong, like let's go through them together. That worked for a year. I felt at the end of the year we needed to switch to something different because I was like, there's just like too many that were getting missed. So maybe Nicole the Math Lady isn't like communicating to you, or maybe you're not learning it the Saxon method way. Like so we decided to try one more year of Saxon with a different teacher. So this Saxon book came with Dive CDs, like Dive math CDs, which is a different teacher, a male teacher. I think it might be the same guy that does Shorman math. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. So for this year, after using Nicole the Math Lady, we chose to use the Dive math CDs, or their DVDs. So I got like a DVD player that hooks to their laptop, and Lucy watched the video and did the lesson. Towards the end, she said that like sometimes the videos were really good and she was really getting it from the video, and then sometimes she wasn't, and she was preferring to just read it from the textbook. So whatever the case, the system that we finally landed on was she does the math lesson, which that was like a whole process of her learning to write all the problems and number them and show all her work. And once she did that and turned it into me, I would correct it with this corrections book. I would hand it back to her in this folder. I would basically put it in this folder, the math corrections folder. And then she would take her corrected page that now has red pen marks on it, and she would go try again. And this is just because I didn't want her to jump directly into like looking at the corrections in the correction guide, because I feel like she was missing an opportunity to like be like, okay, I got this problem wrong. Why did I get it wrong? Because every single problem in Saxon has in parentheses the lesson number. So what I wanted her to do was be like, okay, I got this wrong. Let me look back at the lesson. Let me review that lesson and try again. And then after she did that, then she could correct her corrections. So then I would give her the correction book, or I'd say, okay, the cover fell off, but then she would correct against the corrections herself. So I felt like that was a good way to get her to attempt it again before just looking at the answer. But then after she attempted it again, when she corrected her corrections, I would say she got most of them right the second go around. So I feel like that really taught us, like, wow, just correct your work, look over your work, try it again. Chances are you're going to get it right, because that took care of the careless errors. And then we weeded it down to like, okay, now the ones that you got wrong after a second try, you really don't understand this, or you really need my help. So we're looking at the correction guide. And then at that point, for about half the year, we were doing all of those second level corrections together. And that was when I had the chance to reteach the concepts that she wasn't getting the first time around. And we were like able to find some, like just common errors that she was making over and over again. So I felt like that was really, really good. Well, I was also pregnant and had other kids, and we did get overwhelmed with math. Like, it was taking too much of our time. So towards the end of the year, I was like, I feel like you're ready to look at the correction guide and just like see what you can do without me, see how much you can correct without me, and then star like 1 or 2 for every lesson. So that's how we ended the year. We started the year, I'm like correcting all the ones she couldn't get on her second try and going over all of them with her. And I would say that was maybe about 3 to 4 problems every lesson. And we're only doing even and odds, even or odds every day. And then by the end of the year, she was only starring like 1 or 2 problems, and we were going over those together. It was like her choice of like, I need help with this problem, like help me with that. So that's how we ended. And basically she had a folder and I had a folder. So this was her folder that I handed her corrected math, and then she would give me, if I had a folder, that when she was done with her math lesson, she would turn it into me. And how that helped us out is that I could sit down and grade like five lessons worth, and she could also like grade, like rework 5 lessons worth if she needed to, or like if we had a busy week, we could kind of do like a bunch at a time. So I don't know, that's like the long story. If y'all have any questions or comments or had similar issues with Saxon, I still feel like the spiral method was really helpful for her. So I'm not ready to leave Saxon. And after a bunch of research, I've decided to do Saxon 8-7 next year. I was debating about pre-algebra. I don't feel like we're ready for pre-algebra. And I'm not quite sure what lessons we're going to do. If we're just going to read the textbook, or if we're going to do Nicole the Math Lady, or if we're going to do the Dive, because Dive now has streaming too. So we are still considering what we're going to do with that. Every day Saxon has math fact pages, and we did not get to those every day. We maybe did like 1 a week. And so I am really impressed by anyone that can do Saxon math fact pages every day, all the problems every day. I feel like that's just a lot. So I feel like maybe if they did 1 or 2 math fact pages a week, that would be good to keep them up on what they need to be up on. Okay, so in addition to that, we did a co-op where she did science and literature. So her science book was Apologia Exploring General Science. I think this is like a middle school course. This was definitely a jump for her because it was totally independent with her and her teacher at co-op. So she met once a week for about an hour, a little bit over an hour. And then she got sent home like materials to do the experiment. She like wrote lab reports, got a grade, did quizzes, tests, all that sort of stuff. And she did awesome with that. It was definitely an increase in time commitment for science, but she really enjoyed it, and we would highly recommend this. This is the textbook, and then this is the student notebook. So I think she learned a lot. She learned a lot of independence. She really enjoyed the class. They did a huge variety of things in that class. For literature, we did Chronicles of Narnia at our co-op, and I taught this class using all the books. Basically what we did is we read all the books from Narnia, and we studied them for literature concepts. We also went through this family guide to Narnia, which is devotions there's a devotion for every chapter of Narnia. In the class, we also used this binder, and this is a curriculum, like a full year literature curriculum based on the Chronicles of Narnia, and it's called Christian Novel Studies, and you can download them on Teachers Pay Teachers. I can link to those below. But this is like vocab. It has discussion questions for at home and in class. It has all sorts of activities. It has like life application questions. It has like more than you could really ever do. So we just like picked and chose like maybe 2/3 of this to do. So every week she would read, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 pages. She would do like comprehension questions. She would do the devotion and a devotional response. She would do like vocabulary question and answer or matching or some activities with vocab. And then they would learn some literature concepts and apply those literature concepts to what they were reading in Narnia. So that was definitely like the first time she's ever done like a literature class. And there was some writing and projects with that. But all in all, that was really, really fun. And we enjoyed that a lot. For history, we did something new this year. And that was, we've never done this program, but we did Sonlight Core D. And that was basically, instead of doing like a history textbook or like one book spine, it was a collection of books. So we did American history, and I'll show you the books that we did. This is an old Sonlight Core D. I don't even know what year it's from. Quite a few years ago. I got it online on eBay. But, I would assume that Sonlight Core D is pretty much the same still. The history books that it does Story of the USA 1, Story of the USA 2, Landmark History of the American People, and we also did this American Adventures, True Stories from America's Past. Those were like the books that we would rotate through. And then there was, at different times throughout the year, we would kind of zero in on a topic. So at the beginning of the year, we did Incas, Aztecs, and Mayans. This was like the deepest dive I've ever done into it's really like, goes really, really in depth about all of the Indians over all of the North American continent. This was a lot of information on the Incans, Mayans, and Aztecs, but I learned a ton, and I think the kids did too. This was a challenge, but I feel like we learned a ton. Pedro's Journal was about Columbus. I love this book. It was a really, really fun read. Let's see, I want to do these in order. North American Indians. This is just like a little picture book. Can't You Make Them Behave, King George? Like another book that we read maybe in like 2 to 3 days. George versus George this was an add-on that I did, but I love this book. We did Then What Happened, Paul Revere. The Winter at Valley Forge. Were You There When They Signed the Constitution? Story of Eli Whitney. This is a chapter book. It was really good. Lewis and Clark Expedition. Another really good chapter book. What's the Big Idea? Ben Franklin's shorter Story of Erie Canal, and Imprisoned in the Golden City. This was a story about the Judsons, the Christian missionaries. So that was definitely new for us to kind of have like a literature-based history curriculum. And we loved it. It was a lot of time. I don't know if we're going to be able to, with a baby, like handle that amount of time. Maybe we will. I don't know. I haven't totally decided. Basically, the way it looked is every day after lunch, I would send my younger kids outside, and then the older kids, Lucy and Bridget, my 6th grader and 4th grader, would stay inside, and we would read history, and we would read our read aloud. So with them, we also did the Sonlight read alouds, which were American Indian Prayer Guide and a classic poetry book. And then our read alouds also, they matched up with the history, which we have never done this closely, matching up the read alouds with the history that we did. And so that was really, it was a highlight for sure this year. Walk the World's Rim, Secret of the Andes, Sign of the Beaver, Witch of Blackbird Pond. We pretty much loved all of these, some more than others, but Johnny Tremaine, super love that one, always have. Tolliver's Secret, Carry On Mr. Bowditch. We really love that one. That one's probably a favorite. Paddle to the Sea was the only one that we had already read before. Justin Morgan Had a Horse. Calico Bush. It was good. That was a little bit slower moving. Some of these were slower moving, but ended up being really good. The Journeyman, never heard of that one before, but also good. And then the last one we did not make it to because our baby was born. So maybe we'll read this at some point in the future. It's called Swift Rivers. That was our history for my 6th grader. And then along with that, there was also these history-based readers, which they read independently. So let me show you what she read independently. It's really shocking, like how much we read over, I guess this was a literature-based school year. But a lot of these, it seems like a lot, but a lot of them are, like at a younger reading level than she was at. So as a 6th grader, I felt like the C.S. Lewis stuff was like at her reading level, like the appropriate reading level. These were easy for her to whip through, but, they had a lot of like historical fun content in them. So this was like one of her favorite things to do. Sarah Plain and Tall, Robert Fulton, Boy Craftsman, Sarah Wichter's Story, Meet Thomas Jefferson, Costo, Bears of Hemlock Mountain, Cabin Faced West, Phoebe the Spy, Meet George Washington, The Skip Back School, I think I'm going backwards, Matchlock Gun, Courage of Sarah Noble, Thanksgiving Story, Squanto Friend of the Pilgrims, Pocahontas and the Strangers, and A Lion to Guard Us. So that's what she, and I mean, it seems like I said, it seems like a ton, but she was reading like 10 to 15 pages a day in like a pretty easy for her level. I just felt like that added so much to our history this year. The fact that they were reading independently and we were reading like read-alouds that went with that historical period. So that's about it for my 6th grader. I hope you enjoyed this video and let me know if you have any questions or comments below. Thanks. Bye.